Hello, everyone. How can we trust our national institutions after the way our national institutions have behaved to us? Or also, how can Catholics obey the Pope after what the Pope is doing to the Church? How do we handle betrayal? A lack of trust, yes, but it goes deeper than that, doesn't it? The soul, as it were, is wounded. And how can that wound heal? I was thinking today about betrayal because I was reading that old poem by the Scottish poet Robert Burns. I will not read the whole poem for you because it will hurt your ears. I'm not even going to try the Scottish accent, but just one or two little things, the best I can. He was referring to the betrayal. I believe my history is not as good as it should be, but I believe it was the betrayal of some Scottish authorities, perhaps for English gold, what he calls English gold. I believe it was about the borders, and so the Scottish were betrayed. And Burns says, please forgive me, what force or guile could not subdue through many warlike ages is wrought now by a coward few for hireling traitors' wages. The English still we could disdain, secure in valor's station, but English gold has been our bane, such a parcel of rogues in a nation. Pith and power, till my last hour I'll make this declaration, we were bought and sold for English gold, such a parcel of rogues in a nation. I thought about when I was a little girl. We were studying the history of the Roman Empire, and the first time the Romans were invading Spain, and there was, if I remember correctly, a warrior called Viriato, if I remember correctly, and he was betrayed too for Roman gold. And when the traitors went to get their money, the Romans replied, Rome does not pay traitors. So my thoughts this morning went to this sense of betrayal. First in our own countries in the West. Just one example, the Brexit thing, you don't want unlimited immigration here. Well, here you are, twice, 3 times, 4 times as much now. Or perhaps in the USA, the sense that the empire does no longer work for the American people, if it ever did, but in any case. But for a few, the global bankers, let's say. The European Union, pretty much the same. And I would say the Catholic Church in the same way. It is my conviction, who knows, perhaps my delusion, but that they're all working for some other bosses and not for the people, the politicians of today, our leaders. We have all a sense that our world is being reset to take us back to a new feudalism, capitalist feudalism, if that exists, a corporate feudalism, some call it. Whatever we call it. where the masses of the population are left outside looking in, like beggars outside looking through windows at a banquet hall, or penitents on their knees seeking indulgences. We, the people, the masses, the unwashed, as some people say, who to their noses stink of hard work. And they, our betters, our new feudal lords, like walking coffins, mistaking arrogance for dignity. They don't stand at the top of the prosperous and ancient profession of usury for nothing. In their private islands, stuffed with all the vulgarities that money can buy, resetting us into this new world that they want to create. You know, Cato, the statesman in the Roman Empire, 1st century BC perhaps, said if sapping and betraying the liberties of people be not treason, I do not know what treason is. That's Cato. But unlike Cato or Cicero or Seneca, who spoke always of betrayal, it is not as if all of us are seduced by them, sort of bending like wheat under the wind of their eloquence. No, this is being done by force, not brute force in the West at least, not by forcefully taking the government buildings or the TV stations, but by, we all know this by now, by psychological means, psychological manipulation, installing fear, which leads to demoralization of the populace, tired and unwilling to fight back. This has been achieved to a large extent, and they know they can do this manipulation if they were not certain beforehand, at least by the way we all reacted during the 2020 flu. Obedience or compliance at any rate. We trusted our government, our leaders, and they waited for an opportunity such as this to impose their will and their aims and their goals. It seems almost like, with the patience of cats, and then implementing it with the ferocity of tigers. They said to themselves, probably, this is not the time to be shivering at the brink. A plunge is now necessary. Let's go for it at once. What's the point of shivering at the brink? But these are the ones at the top, on the top of the pyramid, the ones setting the goals. Our leaders, however, are not the ones setting the goals. They are following instructions. Weak. Chosen by the bankers for their weaknesses or their vanity. Apprentices, they are, of predators. Dressed in borrowed plumage. Like insects who become part of what they live on, borrowing their importance from the importance of their masters. People who were specifically chosen because of their weaknesses and their willingness to follow, and who have risen from the ranks too quickly, and so have not yet earned their spurs, so to speak. Not a palpable actional betrayal produced by a whole system, but the subjection of the national interest of individual countries to the selfish ends of transnational corporations. And these leaders of ours gamble with their nation just as a regular con man playing dominoes for a glass of whiskey, with utter indifference to the safety and honor of their nations. Weak as water, milk, not blood, in their veins. In the past, the rulers had always been like those happy sons of the gods who were born to success. So much had been done for them by nature that they were never called upon to pretend to anything, and so they didn't, and they wouldn't. But our present ones, however, our leaders, the ones answering directly to global governance, both in church and state, apprentices following orders, looking like wedding guests in their Sunday best and with expressions to match, like loving, sweet-smiling angels with a dreamy air, an innocent face, but with a strong box for a heart, bowing to their masters with a shopkeeper's effusive politeness, but with their increasingly commanding voices towards us, increasing in volume all the time, it seems, like the crescendos of Rossini. Arrogance sometimes disguised as humanitarianism, behaving towards us as if throwing pearls to swine. We, the masses, smelling to them of hard work. So many feet soiled by unmerited poverty, and so many hands filled with undeserved wealth, depriving us even of our right to work, the only possession of those who have no property. As for the Catholic Pope, who is busy instituting a new religion within the Catholic Church, no more those phrases, more Catholic than the Pope. Is the Pope Catholic? In the past, those who disagree with Catholic doctrine left and found their own churches, and not anymore. The church is being destroyed from within. And I said many times before, and I'll say it again, the problem is not God, not yet at any rate. An all-encompassing God, the Spirit, they are willing to accept that. Excuse me, I just dropped something here. They are willing to accept that, like the Romans, the new god in the pantheon. They wouldn't have any problem with that. For the time being, anyway, before things like transhumanism is imposed or is set in, or tried to be imposed. I've said it before, the problem is the crucified Christ, the Messiah on the cross, that it seems they cannot stomach. We were all under the absurd ideal that the Pope must be a good man, a man of virtuous life, hopefully safeguarding doctrine, the Borgias notwithstanding. But we thought that that was a thing of the past. But the Borgias, they were mafia, and however degenerate their lifestyle, I don't think they ever tried to change doctrine. And this is what is being done while parading as charity. Everyone, it's all padding. But a man cannot always be carrying a huge load up the hill without having his back bent. But there he is, with the angry eyes of an unpaid tradesman, savage with anger, following and obeying those who believe that they have out-Jacobed Jacob. And he's not going to repent in sackcloth and ashes anytime soon. He never will. An angel without a halo. Someone who has lost his way. And as with our politicians, Trollope said, he doesn't do much thinking, I think, but he thinks that he thinks. And Samuel Johnson said, I have always considered it as treason against human nature to make people's virtue, in this case obedience, the means of deceiving them. And yet that is what is expected, I think, obedience, to go down on our knees and kiss the shoe buckle. Sometimes I wonder if to turn the other cheek these days can be a suitable thing to do when so many hands are raised to strike, and to strike us in our faces. These people, all of them, because they're weak, though dictatorial, which is a sign of weakness, can endure criticism, but they can't endure ridicule. And a man can never save his country or his institution by degrading himself. And the suffering spirit of the masses should not abase and descend from its dignity and reticence and disobedience and non-compliance. It has a nobility of its own, made sacred by many tears and much suffering. And to those who don't know the difference between meum and teum, I would say ruat celum, fiat justitia. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. Thank you.